Windhorse is our innate ability to uplift ourselves and our environment by giving rise to a positive energy that is both relaxed and disciplined. Since 1981, Windhorse Community Services has integrated this understanding with modern conventional therapies, meditation, and contemplative traditions in the development of at-home, whole-person mental health recovery. Windhorse Journal is dedicated to the mission of communicating decades of clinical and personal experience to professionals, educators, students, and anyone seeking recovery options. Please join the dialogue.
Welcome to Journal Entry 60, Community Programs During COVID, Nurturing Your Inner Hero. Today's offering begins with a heartfelt conversation among Windhorse community members, moderated by JoAnn, Burton, and Knapp, about coping with the pandemic from the perspective of the hero's journey, a notion made popular by Joseph Campbell. The group opens up, sharing the ups and downs they've experienced over the past several months, the tools they have used to get through, and how they have tapped into the strength of their own inner hero along the way. We hope you enjoy.
All of you are pretty immersed in the hero's journey. We talk a lot about it in our classes and in our social chat. I'm just wondering, does the hero's journey fit into dealing with Corona?
I liked about hero's journey is that somebody said we all have an inner hero and that we should all be called heroes instead of mentally ill people, because having a mental illness is so hard to live with, and we're all doing so good with it that old heroes, and instead of the stigma. That was one thing I learned, and you just got to get for every time you get knocked down, and this virus knocked you down, and we're doing our part by staying home. We're staying safe, and well, I think my inner hero comes out because I'm so raring to go and so ready to go and live my life and be transformed and be happy and be grateful, be compassionate, be kind, be loving, help people when you can. And I'm just raring to go. I think that's my inner hero coming out. I'm just raring to go. You're not going to believe me when this is over.
I love the qualities that you mentioned, Joe, and those are the qualities of heroes, right? Being kind and compassionate.
The best kind of hero.
Best kind of hero, yeah. I remember you saying right in the beginning, right, is this Corona is a dragon. It's the dragon, right? We talk about inner dragons, we talk about external dragons, and this is really a beast, right? So we're up against that.
You bet.
And I love that you said it's more important we get back up, right? That's the resilience. We fall, we get back.
Yeah.
We know we're going to fall, right? Part of the journey.
You bet.
I like the idea that I'm always pretty close to my hero suit. Like I'm living in my inner hero for the most part. Now, there are times where I have that refusal where I don't really know what's going on yet and I'm afraid and, I have a lot of trepidation, but then I still end up reaching for my hero suit and I'll suit up, show up and do what needs to be done. And I love what Joe was saying about the qualities that we're bringing into life. You don't hear anything about flying over buildings in a single bound, but you hear, being loving, being kind. So it's like we're everyday heroes, versus, superheroes. Although sometimes something, it's like, wow, where did that come from? I think just continuing on the journey, we step up to the challenge and conquer dragons.
Laura, if I can just have you elaborate a little bit more about, the first 3 or 4 weeks, you shared that it was pretty scary for you. And
Yes.
you kind of were in hiding, right? You were homebound.
Oh, yes.
And I was trying to get you, just to get out just for a little bit. So how do you think your inner hero came out? How do you think it dealt with the fear of this corona?
Well, I think it came out little by little. It was, honestly, the dragons were my own mind. I found a lot of really nihilist things within my own thinking that made it very scary. And it took me a long time to be courageous enough to go out into the world and go for a walk or go to the store. So it was, those promptings that were given by you, JoAnn, and a few others, to brave. Don't let your fear basically crush you. That's what it was coming to. And going for a walk was like hugely courageous, which seems silly now, but I was that terrified. I was making up stories in my own mind of what was going on and making it, 1,000 times worse than it really was.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Alicia, what about you? And I think this is kind of a new framework for you. We've been slipping it into all of our chats. And I think of late, we've been talking about the bliss, right? Following your bliss. Friday social chats and writing and art have been on following your bliss. Maybe you could even share a little bit about your experience of that and maybe some of your discoveries.
I think like the biggest thing that I've learned about bliss and just like learning about myself is that I guess going into like working, that's actually blissful for me to do. I like contributing to society. If I'm not working, I feel like I'm not doing my little bit to contribute. I don't know if it's just because like my grandpa required us to like work or anything like that, but I actually enjoy, I don't know, I guess it's you come home and you're exhausted and then you do it all over again. So I don't know. I like doing good, hard work. It's just something that for me, it would feel incomplete if I didn't do it in my life. And so with working, I also want something that I'm making a difference. And lately, with my jobs that I've had in the past and the current job that I previously had, it wasn't, I could feel it in myself. Like it wasn't something that I felt bliss about anymore. There was a spark that was missing. And so I knew probably a year ago that I wanted to go for a veterinary assistant certificate. I've known that since I was 8 years old, that I wanted to do something with animals. So that in itself, I knew which direction I was going to go in. And to me, I think making a bigger difference than I was already making, I feel like that's a bigger contribution to society than the current job that I had. So for me, going back to college is going to be the bliss forward to, even though it's been kind of complicated to apply and all that kind of stuff. I'm really looking forward to doing that because that's going to bring that spark that I was missing, that I lost.
So we're in week 10. Having this much time off, has that given you the time to really think about what it is that you want to do with your life and with your, and has that, so I know you've been thinking about it. Are you able to spend more time with thinking about what it is that you want to do with your life?
I mean, there's always self-doubt, but I feel like mentally and like emotionally, I'm at a very different place in my life than I was coronavirus. So it's almost like I feel like I need to be a risk taker because I don't know what's going to happen next. So I don't want to have that what if feeling if I didn't take a chance on something, you know. Same goes with like getting back into painting and things like that, and arts and crafts and doing gardening. They were always things that I've enjoyed doing, but I just was never able to figure a good way to fit them into my schedule. So it's really opened up some doors for me to chase after some dreams or just hobbies and things like that kind of stuff. So I think that's what I really want out of life. Like, I want to be happy. I want to be able to enjoy doing the things that I want to be doing. You know, I don't settle for something just because I'm good at it. I'd rather push myself to go for something that I'd be great at.
Wow. And as we talked about in our social chats, that when we follow our bliss, there is going to be an element of fear and risk.
Yeah.
So it comes with the package, right? If you want to follow your bliss, what you really can, you're going to have to take some risks. So thanks for mentioning that. Anything else about the personal journey? Because about the hero's journey as our group went on it. We were on a journey, but if there was any other comments about people's own personal hero's journey. I think some of you, yeah.
For instance, JoAnn, I'm curious what a dragon looks like. I've heard that term a few times.
Yeah, so.
Well, in The Fisher King, the movie, Robin Williams had literal dragons. A man on horseback on fire coming towards him. Dragon. That was literal. That's why the movie was so great. But dragons can look like anything. They're personal dragons that get in the way, or you could have coronavirus. That's a dragon. When you follow the rules, you're gonna come up with dragons, and what do they look like? Fear look like.
So Joe, of like what fears you have personally that might be a dragon? Maybe gets in the way of you, what you're looking for in life?
No, the biggest fear right now is the virus.
Right.
If I get that, I have to be alone the whole time, be sick, and worry about not being able to breathe.
Yeah.
That's going to be a horror show.
Yeah.
And it's clear sailing besides that. That's why I say when this is over, I'm in the clear.
Well, can you give just general examples of what internal dragons might look like? So we got Corona. We also have talked about sometimes friends and families could be dragons, right? Right? They could really put up some barriers for us.
Everybody's got a dragon in their family.
That would be a good book title.
Yeah.
I would imagine anxiety could be a dragon, though.
Yeah, the anxiety. That's why I say I don't know what it looks like.
Got it.
What does fear and anxiety and panic look like? I don't know. It's more like how it feels. And the anxiety is crippling. It crippled my life, my early life. And it looks like hell. That's what it looks like.
I think dragon is a good metaphor because these blazing eyes and these smoky nostrils and slimy, scaly bodies, and it's like at you, and you're looking at it and you're like, oh my God, and then it starts moving and you start seeing how big it is and how gnarly and slimy and scaly it is. So it's a great metaphor. And it keeps coming. It's big, so a dragon is a good metaphor for whatever people are grappling with, and the good news is that we can grapple within, but it's a battle of and duration, and we just sometimes it's like where you cut the tail off and it's into another dragon, kind of thing, and
its mother will come after you.
It's bigger, yeah, gnarlier.
So Laura, would you be willing to share like samples of that dragon that you have to grapple with, and either in a general way or in a personal way? Like,
sure.
So fear and anxiety, but again, what is the fear and anxiety? What do you think it is?
That's a really, really good question. For me, like, I think my mother is kind of one of my dragons. Don't tell her. But just, having to analyze the scenario, it takes a lot of effort. It's not just an easy relationship. And so I have to moderate myself. She might say something that's unintentionally hurtful, and then like change my expectations. So I've learned, not to have expectations. I try really hard, but things still hurt. So it doesn't sound like much of a dragon, but that is one, is just that relation. And at the beginning of the quarantine, I was like, well, we're all going to die anyway. I don't want to like die leaving this loose thread, I'm going to call my mom. And it took a lot of courage to do that. And I was like, Mom, please forgive me. I forgive you. And, I didn't elaborate on that if I hadn't called her in 6 months. But she hadn't called me either. But anyway, it's like that door opened up and now we're having a relationship sort of again. That's the kind of dragons I have. They don't seem that scary to you guys. You're like, what's the problem? Sure. But it's like that image that I was mentioning, the great metaphor for the dragon.
And we don't many times we lack the experience, so things will bother us that don't bother other people. And people will say, what's the problem? And we're stuck and they can't see it.
Yeah.
And then stigma starts. And then yes. And sometimes it's not good enough. And sometimes we get fired by the dragon and lose. And like I said before, we got to get up.
Yeah.
And there's no alternative but to get up and start again. But we lacked that experience because we were ill. So we're struggling with stuff that other people don't struggle with. And they can't see it, like I just said. And that's where the trouble starts, because they don't see it, and they look at us differently. And they don't see why it's any trouble. But it is trouble for us, because, I don't know, we're mentally ill. And we can't do that other people do. And that's the illness. And nobody understands it. Well, I should say my brother doesn't understand it. And nobody understands it.
Another big dragon that's
Yeah, he's a dragon.
Well, not only family members, but stigma, right? I think that's
Stigma is,
a huge dragon for people with challenges.
I find stigma in the community.
Yeah, and that's a dragon. People will have to be up against, right?
What I've been hearing with the image of dragon is that these are, obviously we all are different people, we'll have different dragons. We have overlap too. It's something that can be an impediment, it can scare us, it can be something that tends to produce confusion and might be an obstacle. And at the same time, we have a choice of how we relate to it, and it can become also an opportunity for growth. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah, but it's hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard.
Yeah. Well, and in the notion of you can cut off the tail and then you may get the mother of the dragon. It's not like you success with one of these obstacles once and then it goes away.
It's life.
There's a practice and a wearing away of how one relates to these. JoAnn, am I getting this anywhere close?
Well, and I think that what Joseph Campbell would talk about, and I think we've talked a lot about in our class, is how do we befriend the dragon? So how do we show self-compassion, so to ourselves and to the dragon, and bring the dragon along so that there is an opportunity. Because the more we struggle with the dragon, bigger and more powerful, and the more we start saying, okay, I know you're there, you're walking with me on my journey, start making friends with it. Maybe friends is a stretch, but looking at it, you diminish the power. So once you start identifying what are the dragons in our lives, we all have dragons, you start to take the power out. And having compassion is a huge thing for ourselves and for the dragons in our lives.
I think that's really good, JoAnn. I was thinking about something that just kind of came to me recently where, and I love what you were saying, Joe, that we don't know how to do things. Like some of us, that's how we were raised, we weren't like nurtured and stuff. And I would like, that was kind of my dragons is the way I was raised, and I was not guided or supervised, so I wandered a lot. And just to look at the other side of that was like, out of that, I became very independent, very adventurous, very curious, all the things that are my points of that negative situation. Yeah, it's like making friends with the dragon. And now I'm able to like embrace these positive things in spite of the negative things.
I love that. A great job in reframing. And one of the things that you have said, and I want to apply it to the dragon, is and you said, well, I've had an interesting life. And maybe we can say about these dragons, well, they're pretty interesting dragons, right? And so it kind of shifts that they're not always this big, scary monster, but they're here to maybe teach us something, right? And so much, and we see this in the film clips, in Star Wars, right? Looking at the dragon, when we really look at it, is us. There's a lot of us to discount corona or stigma or family members. They're dragons too. But when we really look at the dragons, we hold up the mirror. Yes, right? Luke Skywalker sees Darth Vader. He sees his father. He sees the shadow side of himself. And that is really scary when you see that. So just want to put that out there. So Alicia, in terms of school and thinking about your career, do you notice any dragons coming up when you think about what you're going to need to do, how this is going to unfold?
Yeah, definitely. With the complications of applying, most of the colleges that I've applied to before I've done in person. So doing everything online and calling different numbers to figure out well, why is my account on hold? Or, I have the new student orientation, recording a video. Also, I normally would have had a mom or a family friend come with me to the campus or something. I have yet to tour that campus. So I have I'm oh my God, am I going to be, because some of the courses are going to be taken in class and some are going to be online and some will be mandatory and non-mandatory. And, I'm just okay, so who do I contact? And so I'm just trying to do all this research. And I've also been reaching out to my team to get support from them about, what's the next step. I'm also a very independent person. I don't like to ask for help, even though in this situation I know I need help. So that tends to get me into trouble with my dragons of I think it's comparison of other people. Well, other people are able to do it this way, so I should be able to do it this way because I'm this old and they're this old, so why can't I do it this way? The same way that they're doing it, So there's a lot of comparison, and there's also self-doubt going into going back to school because I wasn't really successful with doing the past colleges that I did. I didn't complete them. I didn't complete the sometimes second semester or first semester or whatever I was going into. So there is a lot of dragons coming up for me about, well, even though I'm in the right mindset, when it comes to the work, am I going to be able to sit down and actually do this work? I'm going to need a tutor, and then placement tests that you have to take when you first start college and stuff like that. So, my transcripts are 5 years old or plus more. So they're not, I can't use them. So there's lots of components with starting school again. But there's also the I think the positive things about me, it's I never go down without a fight, and I face things head on, and having to rewire what's going on in my head about not asking for help, or this person wouldn't ask for help, but it's if I don't ask for help because I don't know, how am I ever going to get the answer? So I think I'm up against some very big dragons, but I think my spirit, my just hero spirit, is I've gone through these things before. Maybe not at the age that I'm at now, but I've gone through them before. and I've overcome them. So to look at the past and remember that, like, I have gone to college before, I have had a tutor, and my students helped me through certain things, you know. So the only that I'm in a different mindset than I was then.
And I love that you mentioned, and for a lot of people, the comparison, the shoulds, the doubt, right? These are really common dragons that people experience. And again, following your bliss, you're going to have the fear and risk.
Right.
On the hero's journey, who are your allies? Who's your mentor? You mentioned a tutor. I think you in their team for support and having them to guide you and support you. So thinking about, you know, you're going to have the tests and challenges, and how are you going to bring forth your inner hero? And hopefully you'll stay with us in our community, Alicia, so that we can support you and encourage you, and we can hear all about, you know, your journey.
I really want to stay with, like, the groups that I'm doing, like, currently with the programs and all that kind of stuff with Windhorse. Because I feel like it's expanded my toolbox that I currently have, or it's strengthened what I already have in my toolbox, or reminded me that I have those and to not forget them.
Well, we've enjoyed having you sharing, because you're like a reservoir of all the strategies, and you really have enriched our discussions and sharing the tools, what's worked. It's really been helpful to other people. So thank you. And Joe and Laura, always the sharing.
Thank you all so much for all you've shared, the vulnerability, the clearly understanding your own mind and how dragons occur and how the hero emerges, and in these opportunities that often take for us, and that actually constitute our path, working our path of health as well. It doesn't just happen. There's a path that occurs. And JoAnn, something you and I have talked about over the years, that you've been developing this hero's journey curriculum, and I think is brilliant. The similarity between the hero and the energy of Windhorse, which is what this whole program has been named after, which Windhorse being that life force and vitality that sits at the kind of core of our being, compassion, courage, discriminating intelligence, warmth, and the ability to cultivate disciplines that really what helps, what doesn't help, and to keep giving us that point where we choose. We have that choice point of, will I take something that I know is going to produce confusion? I make a choice that will require courage, but stepping into the unknown and doing something that I think may be helpful, and then over time it's more helpful. So anyway, the hero's journey and Windhorse are very synonymous, and I thought you all just did a really wonderful job of describing that. So thank you all today, and talking more about this in the future.
Thank you.
Okay.
Windhorse Journal is a publication of Windhorse Community Services, supporting recovery from mental health challenges at home and in the community since 1981.